We will now have a panel discussion, and it is my pleasure to introduce the moderator and our esteemed panelists. Shraddha Sharma is the founder and CEO of Your Story Media, India's largest digital media platform for entrepreneurship. Shraddha's journey in digital storytelling began in 2008, and she believes India's new age entrepreneurs deserve to have their stories told. Since then, Shraddha has scaled Your Story to become one of India's leading digital media platforms. With a unique business covering every aspect of India's new economy. Bootstrapped until 2015, Your Story is now backed by the likes of Kalari Capital, 314 Capital, Ratan Tata's UNCRNT Fund, and Qualcomm Ventures. Vinita Bali is an independent director and strategy advisor on the global boards of Smith & Nephew, Cognizant Technologies Solutions Limited, and Bunge Limited. She is a global business leader and has worked with eminent multinationals like the Coca-Cola Company and Cadbury Schweppes. And she was the MD and CEO of Britannia Industries Limited in India. She also served on the global boards of Syngenta International. In India, Vinita serves as non-executive director on the boards of CRISIL and Syngene International Limited. She is on the board of governors of India Institute of Management, Bangalore, and chairs the CII National Committee on Nutrition. Vinita was amongst 27 global leaders appointed by the United Nations in 2012 to help improve maternal and child health care. She also pursued postgraduate studies in international business from Michigan State University. Deep Kalra is the founder and group executive chairman of India's leading online travel company, Make My Trip Limited. He has steered Make My Trip as CEO since its inception in 2000 to a successful listing on NASDAQ in August 2010. Deep is passionate about sustainable tourism and has been championing this cause via Make My Trip Foundation. Deep is also one of the founding members of Ashoka University, and he serves on the governing body and board. He is on the board of TiE Delhi chapter as well. Deep has been recognized by Ernst & Young as Entrepreneur of the Year, Business Transformation in 2011, and the most powerful digital influencer in India in 2012 by KPMG. He holds an MBA degree from IIM Ahmedabad and a bachelor's degree in economics from St. Stephen's College, Delhi. Falguni Nair founded Nykaa in 2012 with a vision of building a multi-brand, omni-channel, beauty-focused retail business. After graduating from IIM Ahmedabad, she has been with A.F. Ferguson and Company, Kotak Mahindra Investment Bank, and was a director at Kotak Securities. Falguni has received many accolades throughout her career, including Women Ahead Award at the Economic Times Startup Awards in 2017 and Businesswoman of the Year at Economic Times Award for Corporate Excellence in 2019. She was also listed as Asia's Power Businesswoman 2019 by Forbes Asia and named Businessperson of the Year 2019 by Vogue India. She is on the board of ACC, Dabur, Endurance Group, and Tata Technologies. Dr. Sangeeta Reddy is the Joint Managing Director of Apollo Hospitals Enterprise Limited and also the President of FICCI. She has been conferred an honorary doctorate by Macquarie University, Australia. She is an entrepreneur building a more inclusive healthcare ecosystem of the nation. One of her initiatives, Apollo Reach, aims at building a string of secondary care hospitals in rural areas across India. Dr. Sangeeta Reddy is also chairman at Apollo Knowledge and heads Apollo Philanthropy, an umbrella entity encompassing Save a Child Heart Initiative, Sahi, Cure, and A Billion Hearts Beating Foundation. She has been awarded Best Female Healthcare Leader Medico Award, International Women Entrepreneur Award, and the Healthcare Transformation Leader Award. Dr. Sangeeta Reddy has been featured in LinkedIn in the Top Voices 2019 India. Thank you all for being a part of this session. Over to you, Shraddha.
Shraddha, you're on mute.
Sorry. Huh. Now I can't see anymore. Just welcome to everyone. And I see that we have 511 people online, and I hope that this conversation, we have such stalwarts and such leaders who've been in the trenches and built extraordinary businesses and experts here. So we will have something meaningful for the next 1 hour. The topic today is redesigning the workplace, a new normal for women and young leaders. So Deep, I'll be counting on you to tell me a lot more, because I have very smart, amazing, and extraordinary women leaders here. And it's an interesting conversation, because all of us right now are looking at and living a new normal, where the workplace, as we know in our country, across the world, has changed. Most of us have now got used to working in the last 90 days, 100 days out of home. This is remote working is now the new normal. In this context, what opportunities, what challenges do we have in front of us when it comes to women, especially women in the workforce? Because let's not forget that the number of women in workforce has been declining in the last few years. If you look at the statistics which comes out every year, the number has been going down, and especially in the urban workspaces. So what does this new normal mean? What does this new remote working mean for women? And what does it mean for young leaders? And I'll request all the panelists, if you could begin by sharing your insight, your opinion on what are some of the challenges and opportunities that you see as of today. I can't see. Can you hear me? Yeah. So, Vinita, we can start with you.
Sure, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. I'll just start with a few comments. I think we are placing too much emphasis on the fact that suddenly we've discovered that work from home can be productive, and therefore this becomes the panacea for getting women back to work. I think it's a very naive and simplistic assumption to begin with, because we, A, haven't even asked the women how it feels like to work from home. B, we are making an assumption that working from home gives you the flexibility. I actually think it's exactly the opposite, because working from home takes away your flexibility. When you leave home and go to work, you can actually concentrate on work. When you're at home, I think a lot of things get put on your plate, whether you like it or not. So my short point really is that I think we're making some very simplistic assumptions that working from home is the magic elixir that we were waiting for, and that will add to diversity and so on. I think the second thing that I would like to challenge is that this is not about women and young leaders. In fact, my productivity working at home, working from the office, etc., has nothing to do with my gender. It has everything to do with my capability. It has to do with my temperament, my attitude, my orientation, etc. So I would caution us from, again, creating a gender divide in this whole topic itself. We are making an assumption that the need for flexibility is higher for women than for men. We are making an assumption that just because we say working from home has worked so far, and frankly, we should also take into account the fact that it's working because nobody has an option right now. The real test will be when things open up and ask people what it feels like to work from home. I think a fourth or fifth or whatever, I've lost count, assumption we're making is that there are spaces that can be cordoned off in homes and those can become workspaces. We forget that a large number of people in India live either with families or joint families. They live not necessarily in large homes. So I see us making a huge number of assumptions and somehow coming to the conclusion that the experience of COVID-19 is going to be the solution to diversity, et cetera, in the workplace. So I'm going to stop here. I'm sure we'll have other comments and opportunities to discuss. But I do want to make the point that it's a very simplistic assumption. I don't think it has anything to do with women. It has to do with how we work and how work gets done, which includes men and women. And I really think we should not give it a gender lens. You're on mute. Can't hear you. You're on mute, Shraddha. You're on mute, Shraddha.
I think someone's trying to help her go on mute herself.
Yeah. And she's back.
Sorry, I'm so sorry. This is what happens when you use someone else's laptop and on gender lens, some guy's laptop. Anyway, sorry. Vinita, thank you so much for taking the topic itself head on. And yeah, and I absolutely agree with you. And it adds a new dimension for the rest of the speakers to bring different perspective, but very, very true, because it just can't be looked from gender lens. And yeah, so many things that you said. But one thing where I will say that we have not come to conclusion, we've just begun the conversation. So it's no conclusion, it's just a start. And I will go to the rest of the panelists to please share your views. Falguni, if you could take.
Yeah, so I'll come in on a different perspective. I think I would like to examine that, is the work from home really working? And all of us have been saying, yes, work from home is working and it's going well, and business is continuing, at least for part of our business. Of course, our warehouses and our stores have to have physical, people present to open it. But for the rest of the business, it's working from home. But I think I also come in and say that we have to remember that it comes on back of years of, working together as teams that we have put in over time. So we understand each other and are happy to work it out on work from home environment. And yes, the video capabilities and have really improved. So it does feel that you can conduct a very fruitful meeting, even with 40 people on the call. But another thing is that there are a couple of other things I want to bring to this thing, that I think the need for communication has gone up. Like, everybody is communicating so much. And it does feel sometimes tiring, because you're typing out a long mail when you could have just said it in a minute going to someone's desk, So it's putting a lot of pressure on the amount of work you have to do to stay connected. Also, for the company to keep talking to the whole teams about the progress of the company, what's going on. Again, that's taking a lot of time. And then finally, I want to just come in and say that, so it is very, very demanding. And I am a little bit apprehensive. We are onboarding people in this current environment, straight, joining and working from home. But I'm a bit hesitant, because I feel I'm not getting to know them. So what we are doing is adding a lot of, we call it wine and cheese get-togethers in the evening, and just adding a lot of that. So it does feel that you're working far more hours than you used to earlier, because I think we are doing like evening calls all the time. There are big conference calls happening, and pretty much one is working the full day. And this is when there's no travel happening. And imagine, when you look at it from our brand partner perspective, over the years, we've met them and they've traveled from abroad, and we feel we can continue to launch various brands right now. But I think the relationship forming, the work that has gone on in the past we are able to carry forward. I think totally working from home, I'm a bit apprehensive. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Falguni. Yeah, I think everyone will agree, and everyone watching will agree. There's no sense of time or days, like nothing. I don't know which day is it today, because like it's round the clock, and yeah, all of us are working harder than ever before. Yeah. Sangeeta, if you could tell us your view on this topic.
So let me first start out by saying hello to everyone. It's nice to see Vinita, Falguni, all of you. It's, all good friends from another era almost, it seems like. So long since we met.
Another century.
We're not so old, Vinita, but it seems like you're right. So, first of all, for me, there was no real working from home. Coming from a healthcare sector, it was very important that we just figured out how we came to work every day. It was important. I'm not, treating patients, but I needed the team to see me and all of them to realize that in this difficult time, we're with them. But I think the meme I saw the other day, that it's not WFH working from home, but it's LAW, and that's living at work. And I think that's what Falguni was saying, and everybody is feeling, because what's happening to me is that when you do go home, the work just continues because people can connect with you on conference calls. And I also want to add with the dimension, I think all of us are working so much harder because in a crisis, it's critical to communicate. When there's change, it's important to communicate. And as leaders, that's what we will automatically step up to do. And we will use any medium possible. And it so happens that today it's, the communication, it's the Zoom calls or Cisco or, or those of us who have had Microsoft and we're using Teams, but we're just using every medium possible to communicate and get through a very difficult time, to handle the change which is happening and to then figure out. So I think what it behooves us to really say, what have we learned from this environment? What are the lessons which are going to stick? And some will, because honestly, there's a lot of productivity which has been achieved in this era. And it's very clear that we need this balance between physical as well as virtual presence. We can't do it all only one way. There's a lot of office space which is going to get opened up. And I've seen that, maybe not in the hospital, but in our, online learning platforms. There's a whole new awareness in our we've had telemedicine for 20 years, but COVID has been the inflection point. We're currently doing over 2,000 teleconsults a day, which is literally what, a 500 crore asset of a hospital does in terms of consultation. So it's a lot of new behavior. And if we can analyze that, figure out what works, and then move into a post-COVID, new normal, whatever you want to call it, by encapsulating the best of what we've learned, holding on to all the good stuff that we had earlier, and moving in with kind of a renewed sense of purpose. Because honestly, the times ahead are going to be difficult from an economy perspective, from a continued health problem perspective. So it's important for us to garner that strength. In strength, I think women power is an untapped strength. And being a women's platform, I'm happy to, kind of say that we're launching this thing called the Greater 50%, not because women make up numerically 50%. All of us know the stats are much worse. Population-wise, under 40%. Workforce representation, the number is, now a pathetic 23%, come down from earlier. Representation on boards and senior leadership everywhere. There's a lot to be done. Just because, I know this is a conversation, there's one important thing that I think that it will be liberating in terms of the mindset which has come, that you can bring flexibility into the workspace. And women in their traditional role have needed and valued flexibility. And the other one is not just women in cities working from home, but I think the ability for women in Mofussil areas or rural areas to be able to continue an urban work, to hold on to an urban job and not just lose their jobs because they've moved out of the cities post-marriage or for whatever reason. That opens up a very interesting possibility as well. So just, going on with the conversation, I think it's a changing environment and it's an opportunity for us to learn and evolve and address things which are important. And women's inclusion is very important.
Thank you, Sangeeta. Very valid point. And we are now back on the track of, it is important to have women included, and we are far from having that in our country as of now. So Deep, the man in the panel, tell us, what's the
Lucky
new...
you are, Deep.
For once, he can be the diversity candidate.
Totally. By the way, I've already got enough WhatsApp saying, what are you doing out here? I said, I'm the diversity But seriously, I think I actually maybe for the first time I really appreciate what it feels like. We also do a lot of conferences at TIE and various things, and we try to include diversity. And hats off to Ashoka, Priyanka, and team to actually pull it off. So I think Vinita, you said something really interesting, and I'm just wondering if I'd said the same thing, if I'd get beaten up, because I've spoken to a lot of my colleagues during this time, a lot. And what I'm hearing from most of them, one is the gender issue, and the second is, do we want to come into work? So it's very interesting. The gender issue I'm hearing is actually contrary to what Vinita said, and I have to only report back from what I'm seeing. We have about 3,000 people. We have another group company called Redbus, which has another 1,500 people. And by and large, the women at work are actually finding it much harder to work from home, specifically if they are mothers and if they're running a house, even if they're married, and even if and especially if they're living with their in-laws. So I'm just reporting back what I gathered, because the expectation is you're around. See, only the people who are fully occupied. And I think in our case, our product people, our technology people, our UX people, and quite a few of our business people, definitely our HR, and then senior leaders are very busy. They are just like everyone else is saying, it's boundaryless working. Everyone is working harder than normal. There's no start, there's no end time. There's, barely, we're trying to keep weekend sanctity. However, our operations people aren't. We can't generate work. During the lockdown for 2 months, there was no travel. Now travel is limping back, and we all know it's nervous. No one's getting onto a flight, just totally nonchalantly. It's really like tentative steps. So we can't create work for them. So the people who are busy are finding it very hard to balance home and this, and especially the women. So this is what I'm hearing. I think the men, and this is the kind of world I guess we live in, it's perfectly acceptable if they go and they lock themselves up in a room from 9 to 9, and they might stroll in for lunch and stuff like that. And there's something wrong out there, right? So I don't know the solution. We should talk about it. There's no better panel to talk about it. But I can tell you about coming to work, which is the other part. So I went into work yesterday for the first time, physical work. And the picture is of my office cabin because I'm making my background, because I'm missing it so much. And I was dying to go into work, and very few of us went in. And we are also contemplating, how do we open up? Because a few days back, some other folks had gone in, just a handful, about 10 people went in. So it's very scant. Now it's very easy if you have a cabin. But is it fair that if you have a cabin and you remove your mask and you work? It's unfair, right? Because the people sitting right outside your cabin, and I have at least a couple of hundred people sitting, even if we get 25% people in at one time, they're going to need to wear masks. And it's really hard to work with a mask. Today morning, I was in an external place for, I think, 2.5 hours, and we were all wearing masks around there. And it's terrible. It's like just not comfortable. You can't have a proper conversation, you can't speak, whereas everyone's working very relaxed from home. So it's a great debate when we've asked our people, and we're doing a poll actually to find out, okay, how many of you really want to come back to work? Totally voluntary. And that's what I want. Like, how many of you would like to? Not so many. We're actually getting, I think the number is going to be south of 20%. And then again, because of the risks, and then, I can't disagree. I don't want to force anyone to come to work because they're so productive being at home. So I don't want to force them. Maybe we start limping back by saying 1 day a week. And if things go okay, 2 days a week. But the reality is someone will get sick, and someone will get sick with corona, not due to coming to work, maybe due to transit, maybe due to some extraneous reason. And then you take 3 steps back. So you take 1 step forward, then you take 3 steps back. So this is a reality. Till the time we don't control this virus, and clearly I don't think we've done a great job as a country in doing that, but that's another topic. So I think we have to contend with this, and I'm looking at the positives of this. Everyone's sick of being at home, everyone's sick of this thing, but the reality is if we didn't have these tools, if this happened to us 5 years, even 3 years ago, we would have struggled. You know, conferences and panels. In fact, there's no better time to get marquee speakers right now for conferences. So I'm trying to get everyone for another conference from international, from the US. I'm saying, I need 45 minutes of your time from your couch. You know, how hard can it be? No trip, no travel, nothing else. So I think we flip it around, and at your story, you're the master of this, Shraddha. So you know how to do that. But I think the learning for me is it might be a hybrid model that emerges. You know, and we tried. I'll give you a great short story. So we have a lot. Our head office is in Gurgaon, and then we have a big tech center in Bangalore. And a lot of our people actually come from East Delhi and Noida. And it's really hard. In the people who don't know Delhi, basically you can end up spending 4 hours in transit every day quite easily, 3 to 4 hours quite easily. That's crazy, right? Because that's fatigue and it's going to tire you out no matter how many calls you do. In fact, our CHRO lives in Noida and he's actually joining this webinar. And you know, I was telling him, how do you do it? He's done this now for 5 years, and he says, I make it productive, etc. I get driven. So I said, okay, let's do a kind of a satellite center. So we took a co-working space in Noida about a year ago, and we asked how many people will work from here once a week, twice a week, and we sized it up, and we thought we'd easily get 50. I think we were a little ambitious. We took a little bit more. We never filled up more than 10, 12 seats out of those 50. Never. And the reason was not because people didn't want to drive 15 minutes and go there. It was a lovely co-working space. It was because managers wanted their people to come in. So I hope that has changed forever.
Yeah.
And I tried to get involved with that. And I said, why is this going on? And managers, no, we want you here. I hope that's changed forever, where you can have this big screen just like here. We've actually fitted that in while we're getting office ready for people to come back. At the end of every aisle, we have this big screen near the manager where, you know, people can log in from wherever. So I'm hoping going forward, we can have people work from home permanently 1 to 2 days a week, depending on their need, because it's been proven you can be very productive. And for me, it would be a great mix, right? If we could get people coming in 4 days a week, but one day you're working from home and you save, imagine 3 hours of transit time, especially those who stay far away. You're staying 15 minutes, 20 minutes to office, you'd rather go to office. It's definitely a better kind of mind space. People miss the breaks, people miss the socialization. I'm talking about post-COVID. But anyone who stays more than 45 minutes to an hour away, I'm sure would love one day where you don't have to battle traffic. So I'm hoping that's the learning we get out of this, and you save on real estate. So that's what I feel.
Yeah.
And you help save the environment as well.
Thank you very much. Yes. Vinita wants to say something.
There's another assumption. I agree that it's not going to be this or that. I think it's going to be, you know, most organizations will find room somewhere in the middle. I also think it gives us an opportunity to question the whole creation of, let's say, office spaces where 7,000 people in one company are working in that. And then you have, you know, hundreds of thousands of people all moving in the same direction to an electronic city or whatever. I think if we were to rethink this and say, can we create, you know, distributed offices where there are a large number of small offices where people don't have to commute more than 30 to 45 minutes to get to a place of work. I think Falguni said something very important as well. And that is, work is not just work. Work is also about sitting down with your colleagues and, you know, shooting the breeze over a cup of tea or coffee. It's about having lunch together. It's about that one-on-one interaction, the many-on-one interaction. I think that's what, and, you know, that's what livens workspaces. That's what creates good ideas. So I think it's, again, it's not this or that. I think we have to question, you know, what do office spaces look like? Do offices have to be these huge buildings where, you know, everybody comes in like a robot and then everybody goes out and stuff like that? So I think there are many things up in the air. And I think the other thing we also have to kind of accept is that this is a very, it's unprecedented, but it's also a very unnatural situation. Sooner or later, there is going to be a treatment, a cure, finally a vaccine, hopefully, and the world will reset itself. And therefore, the post-COVID world is certainly not going to be the world we came from, but it certainly won't be this either. I mean, you know, remember, it wasn't that many years ago, if somebody was diagnosed with tuberculosis, you were sent off to a sanitarium. And now we are mingling with people, and there are so many carriers of TV and so on. So ours is a small ecosystem, is a small microcosm of a very large ecosystem. And I think that very large ecosystem is being impacted by, so many things. I mean, think of artists and theater people. They have no livelihood because nobody's going to theaters, and how much will you watch on your screen?
Yeah, I love the idea of a distributed workspace. I think it's just so sensible from every point of view. Like Sangeeta, I think, said environment 1, time 2, and yet you get what you're missing the most. At the end of the day, I always say, how many people do you socialize with at work? Most days and most managers, maybe 10, 20, 30, maybe 50. You see people, maybe you see a couple of hundred. You never see those 7,000 people, never ever. Especially if you're on different floors. I mean, maybe if you go to the cafeteria for lunch, you'll see 300 people. But actually the need can be satisfied with 50 people, 60 people, or whatever it is, right? Like the buzz. So you need the buzz. And I'm a big believer of that. I think this should change. And this will change for the better. Wouldn't it be awesome if we could all cycle to work or walk to work in good weather? I mean, it would be incredible, right? But you can only do that if you have A, cycling lanes, and B, it's not far away. Or walk to work. I mean, that would be a dream.
And if we worked with Falguni, we would also get cheese and wine.
That's true.
Yeah, very important point, Deep and Vinita. But there are two things, and I'll steer the conversation because here we are talking about women and we are talking about young leaders. But, very, very important point, Deep, that you talked about, that we have to be comfortable with people working from home or in distributed way. But, somewhere we also have to bring out people like you have a team today of 3,000 people, and all of you, Sangeeta, Falguni, Vinita, you guys work, you are leaders. Somewhere I think it's example, right? India as a country, managers and leaders, somewhere I believe are demand that. And right now, let's not forget that people are losing their jobs. There's a huge level of uncertainty and insecurity. And I'm talking to so many people and they're all insecure ki aaj nahi to kal mera job jayega, kab jaane wala hai. And then when the leaders come to office, or when, there is an implicit thing that you expect ki boss aa raha hai, so we have to. And somewhere when we calling that out, what you're saying, I think when you call that out, then, the people in your company, the 3,000 people will feel secure that, okay, it's okay to not come. And we need more of that conversation coming from the top. Because I think people in general will be okay to work from home if they see that the leaders are walking the talk. And thank you for bringing that conversation. But anyways, I'm going back because the conversation right now is about redesigning the workplace, a new normal for women and young leaders. And somewhere while we are talking about all these topics, I would love to get your views, all of you, if you could say, what are some of the opportunities, and maybe just not just from COVID lens, but what are some of the opportunities that you think and ways in which we can get more women to come in the workplace? If you could, and for young people also, because right now the young people, for all the opportunities, New India, they are also feeling a lot of heat because jobs are just getting lesser and lesser by the day.
So, Shraddha, I want to, add this point. I think you raised something very important, actually two very significant things. One is it's being estimated now that while women are only 26% of the workspace, like we said, 50% of the job losses, or actually 55.2% of the job losses, which have happened over the last 3 months, are women.
Yeah.
And so this is quite serious, despite the work from home, despite everything else. So there are a lot of other kind of mental frameworks that we need to challenge as well. And that's, one of the reasons why this whole initiative of the greater 50% is to work on inclusion, to work on enabling, to bring women into leadership, to improve the whole appreciation of women at work. Then talking about the implicit or the unstated pressure that employees have, that was another fantastic point. So I just want to share with you what we did at FICCI. I've been stuck in Hyderabad, but the FICCI's main office is in Delhi. And we have approximately 300 people in that building who work there. However, with the new norms of social distancing, we could accommodate only 100 people, keeping safe distance. So that became a methodology for us. So we basically said that people work, some come in twice a week, some come in once a week, and you're the ones who are, called in, and some do alternate weeks. So we literally laid out an option and let people choose the option. So it wasn't that this pressure of, boss is going to work, let's all go to work. Otherwise, what's going to happen to my job? But you're very insightful to state that that's actually what's happening in hundreds of people's minds. And I think it's very important for leaders to allay that fear, to work with HR to design a system that consciously attacks that and opens up saying these categories, we really need you. So healthcare and hospital workers, these categories we can manage at home. So please stay at home because you're contributing to keeping the environment safe. Because having more people at risk for infection increases the number for the country and therefore brings down the healthcare status of the country. So it's actually something linked to national pride and national contribution of organizing your workforce. I would put it in that context and request all leaders to very proactively manage work from home as far as possible for as long as possible. And then, we come back to this whole environment, the new enabling environment for women, and tackle that at a slightly later date while encapsulating and seriously hardwiring some of the lessons that we're learning now, which is flexibility is possible, productivity is possible. And therefore we should enable that so that there's this whole new diversity in the workspace.
Thank you. Very valid points. Falguni?
No, I just wanted to come in and say that it's a little bit of a, for healthcare, it's very easy, but for us, like many of our warehouse staff and many of the store staff are being expected to come into the store because the store has typically 5-6 employees in the store and they're not being given choice to stay at home. Sometimes if some of them
I'm sorry, I really have to state that, my team would be very upset if I didn't acknowledge our pharmacy team. This is 3,600 retail stores with warehouses, with the need to come in, and some pharmacies in red zones, in lockdown zones, but essential service. So, the team has just been amazing. And sorry, I had to butt in, but if any of them are listening, they need to know that I acknowledge the great work they've done.
Agreed. Yeah, it's amazing. So I was just coming on to your point that I understand the need for the rest of the functions to stay at home, but also there is a feeling that why are many people allowed to work from home? And while many of them have to go into the store and the warehouses now for extended periods of time. So trying to achieve that balance across the organization where, they feel that, yes, especially once the government is opening up the city, we are mostly based in Bombay and Gurgaon. And once the government is opening up the city to continue to say, okay, let's continue to work from home without any implications, is becoming harder in a company like us, where half of them do have to come into work and other half is obviously can easily work from home. If everybody could work from home, I think it's easier, but trying to achieve this balance where 50% or more than 50% of your staff does need to come into work. And I think there are capacity issues. So we have to be kind of strict that you do have to come in. And to the others, you're continuing to give work from home. So at the moment in Mumbai, at least the decision was more on the government because they were only allowing 10% in offices. So that doesn't make sense. But I think soon comes a point where one has to take a view that do we get back to work? And I can see in general, there is reluctance of those who can work from home. They feel, why do they need to come into work?
Yeah. Yes, Vinita, please.
Yeah, Shraddha, if I may add to what has been said, right now, and rightly so, and understandably so rather, there is a lot of fear that is guiding decisions that organizations are making, decisions that individuals are making. But at the same time, I think we've got to keep the larger perspective in mind. Let's face it, women were not even adequately represented in the workforce before COVID. Yeah. So, and it gets further exacerbated by the statistics that Sangeeta shared, which is actually frightening, that, larger numbers of women are actually losing jobs during this situation. So I think we've got some systemic and structural issues that have nothing to do with COVID. COVID has just brought them to the surface, like it has brought so many things to the surface about, broken systems and so on and so forth. So those things that have to be fundamentally and structurally corrected have to be corrected with or without COVID. I think the second thing, and maybe this is the optimistic in me, we will deal with this. It'll be stop-start. Some things will be fine. Some things will not be fine. It'll be difficult, etc. But there will be a post-COVID phase. And I think the real question to ask in the post-COVID phase, or to ask now as we get into the post-COVID phase, is, how do we define how work will get done? Are we going to stick with the old models, or are we going to be willing to reinvent and change some of this? Like there was, I think, this fairly, poignant WhatsApp that was going around some time back, which says, who is responsible for the digital strategy of your organization? And it said CEO, CIO, blah, blah, blah. And then it said COVID-19. And obviously it's COVID-19. So I think the point is that some of these are catalysts, accelerators. But I think the deeper question we have to ask, those deeper questions have not changed. And I don't think those answers have emerged about adequate representation, fair and equitable, gender opportunities. People are not getting jobs today because there aren't enough opportunities to give them jobs. So unless we have that happening, and for that economic engine has to work, and we know the rest. Those are the things that have to happen, because this is not the problem. And the solution will not come from here. The solution has to come from very vibrant and meaningful economic activity and growth that will take care of so many of these things.
Yeah, we are all looking, Vinita, I'm sure we are all very, very closely looking at some vibrant economic activity to happen. I interviewed the finance minister 2 weeks back, and of course I got that opportunity because of digital happening. So it was not on Zoom, but it was on something, WebEx or something. And what I got is that they are also figuring out, and then they're also figuring out, but we are all figuring out, and we are all hoping that something happens. Like, we really need bold, big, audacious steps for the economy to revive. Yeah, we're all waiting. But anyways, coming back, I can't have all of you here and not get some pointers. So maybe, like you said, of course it needs structural changes, and it's so deep rooted. There's so many changes needed for any change to come in the, for women. But, just from your lenses, again, what are some of the quick things you will tell the leaders and people who are watching, people who are running businesses? What are some of the things that they can do to ensure that, we have more equal workplaces, and then also, we have not touched young leaders. Again, I want to bring young leaders here, because millennials and I don't know, I thought that millennials will be very happy right now. Young people will be very happy because they've grown into a new environment. But what's scary is that young people are actually most worried, because they feel that the legacy, what we are leaving for them, is a very uncertain. I think they feel that we have destroyed everything, and then they are smarter, but they have more questions. So what would you tell to the young leaders, and what would you tell to the leaders when it comes to creating, some quick things that they can mull over and think about? Deep.
Yeah, sure. I want to also take a minute and just talk about something which I think we have started some time back with women, and which has worked like a charm, COVID notwithstanding. So, and we are very excited about it. So we call it holiday experts or home experts. Basically, we figured that some of the best people who are travel consultants are now off the workforce. They are off the workforce due to maternity typically, and they want to spend time with their family, etc., etc. But their knowledge base is incredible. And we all know, while planning a holiday, unlike just booking a flight ticket or sometimes just booking a hotel a la carte, most of us want to talk, want to go back and forth with someone who knows the place, especially if you're going to a new place, right? Or if you have a friend. Now, these travel consultants, at the same time, the kind of people we were trying to hire, young people, very often hadn't been to these places. So they were selling places they didn't know, which is obviously not a great model, right? So a few years ago, we actually said, let's experiment with people working from home. This was probably, the seeds of this were sown like 5 years ago, but it really picked up momentum in the last couple of years. And I have such hopes for it. So right now we have more than 1,000 people who work from home, almost all women. They don't have to be, by the way. We keep saying, listen, it's fine to get men too, but it's typically women giving us anywhere between 2 to 5, 6 hours of their time. Typically, they are timing this with their kids' school time. And I cannot tell you the customer delight difference between people who they handle, customers who they handle versus customers who are handled by young kids for whom it's just another call center job or whatever you want to call it. So this model is super successful. I call it win-win-win because it's great for the person sitting at home. By the way, the average earning there is about 25,000 a month. There are some who earn more than 1 lakh a month. Some have broken records in season and earned 2 lakhs a month sitting at home, selling holidays, what they love doing. And then we give them a lot of support. So the company gives them the support. Like once they've done the sale, we'll take over, but they're always available. We give them a mobile phone, etc. So it's win for them. It's big win for customer because you're talking to someone who's an expert, who's been there like 5 times, knows every, nook and cranny of that place and can, bring Sri Lanka alive for you, can bring, Chikmagalur alive for you if you're a coffee freak, whatever it is. So they know these places because they could be living there too. And the third win is for the company because our fixed costs obviously come down and we variabilized it. So we think that's huge. And really, I say it all the time, and I think my people are sick of hearing. I said, my goal is we want 100,000 such people. And we're 1,000, but we have to dream big. But we have a very exciting leader who's taking care of it now and is really keen to blow this up. So I think it'll be great. Coming to young leaders, which was the reason I was on this panel, apparently. So I have to say, again, Shraddha, I very politely disagree with you on the millennials or the young leaders. For us, they are our future. Yeah. Our brightest ideas come from our youngest folks. And I'm talking about, again, product people, design people, and they are in online marketing. They're an absolute delight to work with. Even in HR, I cannot tell you the quality of people we have out there and what all they want to do and the ideas. So if you tell them, listen, take this job as your own, like this is, if entrepreneurial, just be entrepreneurial, do what you would do. What's the right thing? We want to engage with people when we are onboarding them. Like Sangeeta said, no, I think Falguni said, it's really hard to onboard virtually, but we also had some hires. We want to bring them on. And they typically come up with solutions to this because they can connect with that young person who's joined. And I would have never thought of, Falguni is obviously very young at heart, if she thought of wine and cheese remotely. We are only doing that on Zoom calls to celebrate birthdays nowadays, but it's a great idea. So similarly, our product people, Instagram strategy. I mean, I cannot even start. I feel embarrassed to say, like, I don't get Instagram completely, but I refer to my kids who are both, one is 20 now. They know more about Instagram than I do. My wife knows much more about Instagram than I do. But the youngsters, they can code websites. They can build websites in a week on Shopify or Wix, which are more sophisticated than we would have ever been able to. They're not afraid at all. So they're fearless. You just have to give them an open canvas, and they want to do it on their own time. So I actually feel this work from home fits them very well because they don't want to work 9 to 5, 9 to 6, or 10 to 7. They don't like coming in at that time, going in. They're saying, listen, my time is my time, but guess what? I'll work through the night. And I'm sure anyone who's got teenage or older kids who would be dealing with this right now, especially if they're back from college. So there's sometimes in the morning when I wake up, I have to check with my daughter who's up, and I'm saying, so did you sleep at all or have you woken up? And very often is I didn't sleep through. I was just involved with something, but this is what I did at night. And so I think we can tap the potential in an incredible manner. And so maybe it will be gig workers of a different quality. And we are excited about those prospects too, of how we can bring in people, designers, etc., to work wherever they are on their times and just focus on output, which is our company philosophy too. I loved what the speaker prior to this, Amira, said. If you trust your people, don't check, when they came in or when they go out, etc., etc. Just focus on what they're giving. So I'll stop. I know there's a lot more to.
But Deep, that's a very valid point that you said, that focusing on outcome as a leader, that you're doing that. But the question, what I was asking for is, of course, the young people are very talented, and the best thing is that with them you remain young, and you don't get. What should I say? You don't become a dinosaur because they know the trends and everything. But the thing is that right now, if many of them, and I'm sure at Ashoka University also, youngsters would be thinking, what's next? What's the opportunity? Because overall, as a country, let's agree that as a country today, jobs are less. Like, when we went out, some of the traditional roles that we had are disappearing. And in that environment, and then so many youngsters in Bangalore, if you see, they're losing jobs like crazy. In bulk, people are being laid off. So in that environment, and I want to hear from you on this also, is that what would you like to tell people? Because like you are saying that they're incredibly talented, you are focusing on outcome, and that matters. But what would you tell them to navigate the current time when they are thinking about their career, they are thinking about what to do next, how to build their own life journey?
So I'll try to say it in 1 minute so we have time for everyone else. So what we are doing, and by the way, we were not spared either in travel. So we did have to let go of a lot of folks, but almost 10% of our workforce, which was the worst and the toughest decision I've actually ever made in 20 years of Make My Trip. But this was the kind of businesses which won't come back in a hurry, international holidays, etc. However, at the same time, and we did it so that we can keep the other folks motivated, because otherwise we were asking them to take deep cuts. And a lot of them took deep cuts. And at some point of time, they have fungible skills. If they are in product or tech, the whole world's their oyster, and there are enough companies who are hiring away right now, and we're being targeted as one of those. So it's, it hurts. Yeah. So I'm telling these folks, and we're communicating a lot between myself and Rajesh, who's my co-founder, and he's now the group CEO. We're actually keeping them super busy. There are product stand-up meetings in the morning, there are product stand-up meetings in the evening. There's incredible focus on what we are building on new features. And they keep being kept super busy, and they're all joining in. We have reviews for, let's say one line of business. So let's say it's intercity bus, which is important. I mean, we'll have 50 people join in. Off a hotel, we might have 75 people join in on a review call, on a Zoom, and it's good. Everyone's invited, and they probably wouldn't have been 75 in a physical setting. But we tell them, please all come in. And please keep using the chat like out here, and please keep talking if you have a point, and there are ways that you can do it. We don't mute anyone, etc. So we're keeping them very busy, very motivated, and saying this is a unique opportunity we've got to do what we can't do with lights on. So when business is happening, you get so lost and you get so pulled in different directions because of the pressures of business that you can't do the big hairy projects. So this is the time to do the big hairy projects and to prepare yourself for us and to be golden when you come out of this. So that's our big focus. When we come out of this, we're going to be much, much better in every aspect of customer handling.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. That's a very, very, very useful input.
I wanted to come in. What we did during this time was that we had a lot of beauty advisors from our store who didn't have much of work. So we actually asked them to, we did a formal program to train them, because now digital education is very easy, and we have a BA app where anyway we used to train them. So we just intensified the education during this time so that they don't feel nervous and they don't feel that they're not required. In fact, they felt that they were acquiring new skills till such time as business is back again. And in fact, in a way, we didn't let anyone go, which was a good thing, because now as stores are opening up, we have our full strength. So I think we also decided that this is a time to do more learning for those teams that didn't have day-to-day, they were not busy on day-to-day work. So there were many teams, like Deep said, on product side, on tech side, on business side, who were very busy throughout the downturn, but throughout the lockdown. But now many of the other departments were also trained up so that they were not feeling left out.
Yeah.
I think both these are very important and very critical points, and they communicate something more than what is what has been said. I think young people are very conscientious of our companies dealing in a manner which is fair and authentic. And I think when young people see that there is a culture and an ethos of the company, which is not going by numbers alone and saying that here is a company that is investing in my capacity and my capability and so on. And, I think we all have to start with the conviction that this has been, everybody talked about the VUCA world. Well, this is the VUCA world and we are all bewildered. But this will also change. And therefore, how do we use this time to enhance our skills and capabilities, but also give young people that focus to say that investing in yourself, investing in new ideas, creating forums where they can make those investments. I think those of, all those, venture capitalists and PE firms who are sitting out there, this is the time to come out and back some of the younger people to actually, give them that confidence and that courage that there is liquidity enough to back new ideas. So the way we use this time is going to be very important. The way organizations deal with people is going to be very important. When young people see that the senior managers, the directors, and everybody else is not taking any cut in either their lifestyle or whatever, they're disillusioned, and so would I be. So I think this is the time to put your money where your mouth is. This is the time to show people, not just talk about, people are our most important asset. Show them how people are your most important asset. Somebody said, your actions speak so loudly, I can't hear your words. This is the time to show those actions. And I think if you invest in those actions, they will go a long way in attracting the best talent to your organization.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think that was a really powerful thought, and I'm trying to encapsulate, it's been just the craziest of times because we were learning new knowledge. There was no cure. There's no vaccine. Treatment protocols were changing by the minute. The ability to bring in, to motivate teams to say, we have to do this. And to find that spirit, which, I was very happy that so many people just rose to the occasion and said, yes, we're at risk, it's difficult, but it's the right thing to do and Apollo will do it. So I think calling upon that inner strength and that sense of purpose and sense of belonging is one of the most powerful transformational spirits which have risen to the fore for so many people. I mean, it's healthcare people, but it's also textile manufacturers making PPEs. Some may say it's their entrepreneurship, but I think first it was their intent to serve in a difficult time. Coming to the young people, I think we must remember the fact that this is probably one of the biggest jolts they have ever seen in their life. India was, they've grown up with a fairly powerful image of India. And young people all over the world, actually. The 2008 crisis, I don't think was felt so much. This is something which has impacted everyone. And I agree with Deep. I think the youth have been outstanding. I mean, I had all three sons at home for the first time. My 21-year-old is away from, he's doing medicine in UK, came back home a day before the lockdown came in. And they were just so understanding. I thought these kids, these young men, they want to play football, they want to go out and do stuff, and they were just locked in the house. And they didn't say a word. They just understood. They figured. They educated themselves. And so I think, number one, that the youth are amazing. Number two, I believe that this is a great time for them to relearn adaptability. Because they're intrinsically smart, they're very well educated, they're very exposed, a lot more than we were at that age. They're not so dependent on us for knowledge, information, or guidance. They accept some guidance if it strikes the right chord. So it's for business leaders as well to appreciate that aspect. And, that's another reason why I think women leaders are pretty good, because we're able to make this journey from home to office quite easily. We do not create a false persona about who the big boss is. And this ability to be nurturing and inclusive and multitask makes for good leaders. Sorry, I had to do that plug for women. But
don't be sorry about it. Please continue. Please don't be sorry about it. Please continue.
Okay. So the youth, the one thing, because you asked a very direct question, and that is, where are the job opportunities for the future? I think we must appreciate the point that in this changing world, one of the most important things which is happening is that it is becoming digital everywhere. So if we haven't had a STEM education, you don't need one, but you need a knowledge of engineering and digital. And there are 100 ways. Online learning. I mean, pregnant mother with a young baby, I think Amira was there. Mothers across the world, please get online, do a Khan Academy, do some of the free courses that great universities are offering, IBM, Harvard, everyone. So self-educate. And one of the biggest unlearnings is that learning stops in college. People have said it. Today, it's a true 200% reality. So,
sorry, we're running a little out of
time. But let me just end by saying that I believe entire humanity has learned a lot. And the deepest thing is that there is intrinsic good, and it's worth saving. So let's find that, whether it's young or old, man or woman, IT or non-IT, first let humanity rise, and everything else will happen automatically.
No, thank you so much. Yeah. Yes, Priyanka.
Okay. Thank you all for that enthralling session. Thank you, Deep, Vinita, Shraddha, Falguni, and Sangeeta. Given the fascinating discussions that we're having, we're almost regretting that this conference is just one day long. From you all, we got a great comprehensive picture of how the new normal is shaping up. What we are already seeing is that organizations are uninhibited in hiring from a diverse talent pool, higher productivity among women, and creative young leaders who are conscientious and value flexibility, rather than being put into straitjacketed situations. Yes, many are missing socializing with colleagues and exchanging ideas and having a balance between life and work. But a dispersed workforce can have many advantages in the post-COVID world. And it must encapsulate the best of what we have learned from the crisis and use them as a catalyst to reinvent our ideas of work. Thank you all for this wonderful discussion and for being here with us.
Thank you.